everybody, and thanks for joining us on another episode of The BAM with Lori and Jenny. Today, we have a super special guest, Melissa Knowles. Melissa is the VP of Key Accounts at ABC Fitness. She also has a history of entrepreneurship. She has 2 young kiddos, and this interview is extra special because I've had the opportunity to work with Melissa at ABC Fitness and witness firsthand what a badass leader she is. So super excited to talk about that. And I know, Jenny, you wanted to jump in and kind of kick us off with a question?
Yeah. So Melissa, I just mentioned to you that I did some pre-work and was listening to another podcast that you were on, and you have a really interesting entrepreneurial journey, mouthful, for a Monday morning. And you spoke a little bit about leadership, and it just really piqued my curiosity because I do HR work. And so we focus a lot on leadership, and you had some interesting, I thought, perspective on that and leading with vulnerability. And I would love to just like jump into the hard stuff, right? Like, how has your leadership journey changed over the years? And how would you kind of share with our listeners kind of what that looks like for you?
Okay, leading in with a softball of a question here, Jenny.
Mm,
I would say it has fundamentally changed
yeah.
over the years. Like if I go back to my early journey as a leader, I very much showed up like beyond reproach. I had to have all of the answers. I would never let any of my team see the messy bits of me, including my personal life. Very much put a barrier up between work me and home me. And probably out of sheer necessity, as I've gotten older and become a mother, I realized there is no work me and home me. There's just me. And there's so many wonderful elements that I can take from my home life that make me a better leader at work. And there's so many things I've learned through leading teams that have helped me as a mother. So I think just blending the two parts of my life, so there is no start and end to work or home, has been so helpful. And also just trying to show up to be the leader I wish I would have had as a young professional, somebody that acknowledges that you will have days where home's going to take a little bit more out of you than you intended. And there are days that you have to show up a little bit more fully for work than maybe you planned into your home life, and that the two can coexist in a really beautiful way if you get it right.
The vulnerability piece, I think, is really important. And I think a lot of leaders undervalue that. And so I wondered if having kids maybe brought that out a little bit more in you.
You both will acknowledge this. When you have your first child and you leave the hospital, you go, why are they letting me take this young human?
Yeah.
I have no clue what I'm doing. And just to be able to know that I'll figure it out, that I have support I can lean on. I think that's another important lesson for work leadership too. It doesn't have to always be me with all of the answers or that's putting things back together in messy parts of life. Carrying that energy into work too, right? Like I'm always in a position before I'm 100% prepared for it. And I think that's a beautiful place to be. If you're uncomfortable and you don't have all of the answers, it means you're in the right room because you're challenging yourself and you're forcing yourself to grow. And I still don't feel like I know what I'm doing as a mom most days.
I love that. Me either. I have no idea. Jenny's kids are both grown and out of the house and in college. And we were just having this conversation the other day about how it's like they still just need their moms, right?
There's a Tina Fey bit about teenage girls. And I don't know if you've seen it, but she's basically like, you're trying to be friends with the cool kid at school. And you're like, I don't know, some of us are going to have dinner downstairs if you feel like coming by, like you're trying to play it cool. And my older daughter she's 23, and she gets overwhelmed if we text her or call her a bunch. She's super busy. She's living her own life. And so I try to be mindful of that. So there's this balance between, do I want to reach out? I'm like, I'm thinking of you, or will that just stress her out? So which one do I do? And so I feel like it's this constant dance of, do I reach out and tell her I'm thinking about her, or do I wait because she'll be overwhelmed? And you're just trying to hit it right all the time. And so it does not change. I guess the moral of the story is it does not change.
As soon as I get comfortable in a phase with one of my kids, they've moved to something else. I'm like, okay, this is new energy we've got. And also my second is so different from my first. It was starting all over again. She lured me in, like thought I had a false set of confidence going into my
Yeah.
second, and then figured out, oh, he's his own person.
Humans. It's
Yeah,
Yes.
so
incredible.
weird.
They're the exact same age and gender as my business partner. So I hear all, and her oldest, her daughter is like very compliant, super sweet, conscientious. And then the younger one is hilarious and like a little wrecking ball.
Melissa, I want to lead up to how you got to where you are because you have an incredible story. You've always been in the fitness industry. I want you to walk us through how you first started as a personal trainer and then managing and all the things, and then your entrepreneurial journey along the way. I know Jenny had pointed out in one of your previous interviews of how you, in a way, manifested working for ABC, and we'll talk about that with one of the other companies that you started. So take us back to the day before kids and what you thought your path was going to be.
Fitness is an accidental career. I no way set out in college and mapped out my career journey as it's come to be. So I was in grad school thinking that I wanted to go on and get my PhD and teach college. That was the goal at that phase. My master's is in exercise science, so a natural part-time side hustle would be training people in a gym. So I started doing that, and I just kind of fell in love with it. So my client roster grew and grew. Grad school finished up. I still fully intended to go on and get my PhD, but was taking a little break while I worked on my thesis defense. So I ended up in management running a PT team in a gym, in a big box gym, and figured out I was good at selling PT too, and kind of really dug managing this team of really passionate people that were committed to changing people's lives. So I found some purpose in the work I was doing. And then the paycheck started coming, and I was like, wait a second, I'm earning as much doing this thing that I just love and just somehow know how to do. I'm earning more than I'd make as a professor. So this could be a career. It's the first time it dawned on me that fitness could actually be a career. So did that for a few years, transitioned into the corporate side of the house with a national PT company, doing operations and running things like HR and customer service. So getting to see the business side of the industry, I figured out I really liked that too. Taking complex problems apart, fixing things with process, pouring into teams and building teams. So stayed there for a number of years. And that led up to starting my first company.
So at this age, are you in your early 30s? Are you late 20s?
Yes, early 30s at this point, where I'm running this corporate team for this national PT company, and virtually overnight they lost two of their big license deals. So I had this great corporate team I built, and in a matter of weeks, I'm now in the position of laying people off, which was a new experience for me, is
Mhm.
letting go of people that have trusted in me, that I've shepherded along, and now I'm telling them they didn't have a job. So we're going through this series of layoffs, and what became my two business partners, our chief legal officer and our controller, as many great ideas form. We're out having beers after a really hard day and just lamenting, like, man, this sucks. We just went from loving what we do, and now I'm sitting here not only worried about my team, but like the writing's on the wall. Maybe I should be looking for a job too. And we said, wouldn't it be cool if we could keep this team together? We've built something really great. I wonder if what we do could be marketable and a solution for the industry as a whole. Doing things like their HR and payroll, keeping their books, doing their customer service, all the things that people don't start gyms wanting to do. They're just necessary evils. So we kind of scratched a plan on the back of a napkin, and I went home and wrote up a business plan over the weekend. We put together a pitch deck, and we pitched our current employers to be our first customers. What if you could just get rid of your lease and you didn't have to pay us anymore? You'd sign a contract, you'd be our first customer. And that's how the business started. It's out
I
of
love it.
a really horrible experience. And we were able to call back some of the people we laid off, which was really cool. And that started us on the path with Gym HQ.
So one of those things that was never the plan, right? Which at first seemed devastating, but then, as you said, actually turned into something really great.
So right too about the operations piece. We find that all the time with our clients. We work with a lot of small businesses, and it's like, I love fitness, so I'm opening a gym, or I love coffee, so I'm opening a coffee shop, and they have no idea about how to manage people or what laws they need to be following. I mean, smart to partner with an attorney too, by the way.
Ops bits, and I knew the industry quite well. Jonathan,
Hmm.
legal side of the house, and John was an accountant by trade. So you kind of tick all of the boxes.
Yeah.
The fourth partner we brought in was Club Ready, competitor of ABC at that point, because I didn't know the tech. I wanted to fold in the tech element and I needed to have a pathway into our potential customer base, a
Hmm.
natural pathway. So partnering with a tech company that provided member management software to the people we wanted to sell to just seemed like a natural idea. So we all came with our own skill sets and just really worked well together.
And
Hmm.
then inevitably you ended up working for Club Ready, correct?
Yeah, they bought us out. So my goal was, I did have a goal for the business at the onset, was 3 to 5 years. I want this thing to be so successful that we get acquired. And I want to be
Hmm.
acquired. Funny enough, ABC was on that list of companies like maybe ABC will come knocking and want to acquire us. Well, our business partners got there first. They were like, this thing's doing so well. We don't want to be a minority partner. We want to own it outright and have you come run professional services for us. So at 18 months, very, very early
Wow.
on into the business, we were acquired by Club Ready.
Yeah. And a lot of entrepreneurs got really jealous with that number you just threw out there.
Well, I have a failure. I have an L on my track record too, which we can get into later. So it's, yeah, I hit it out of the park with that one, but then karma came around to bite in my confidence later.
They brought you back down to, it's like, we're going to take you down a notch.
Exactly.
So at what point did the kiddos enter the scene in your corporate journey? So now you're working for Club Ready, it's a large company. And then I assume at this time you have your kiddos.
So, no, didn't have kids at this point. So, this was 2014, 2015. And I knew I wanted children, but it wasn't happening. So, my husband and I went down the path of doing all of the tests and trying all of the things. And eventually we figured out if we wanted to have a child and not adopt, that we're going to have to go down the IVF road. So, my firstborn, Olivia, is an IVF baby. Spent a lot of, boy, that's a whole podcast in and of itself.
Yeah.
The complete 180 that does on your life and your psyche
Yeah.
and all of that. So luckily was successful and I had Olivia in 2018, right around the time that Club Ready was getting acquired by private equity. So up until that point, founder led, very much startup vibes, and now private equity coming in. So that was a complete change of how the company was run, how we managed teams, all of that. And at the time Olivia was an infant, I was traveling to St. Louis every other week. So I had this new baby that I was away from, 4 or 5 days at a time. And my husband was having to step in and be Mr. Mom while I was doing work travel. So the first phase of being a mom was very stressful because I wasn't balancing both very well with what the job was asking of me.
How long did that last? I mean, I don't even know how you how you did it. I mean, I remember even just going into the office and feeling like, "Oh my god, I barely see my child." So, how long did that last? How did you manage it?
Well, in hindsight, I wasn't managing it very well. Like, I was stressed to the
Yeah.
max. And there were so many things, again, looking in the rearview mirror. I wasn't not acknowledging any of this at the time. My sleep was shit. I had a
Yeah.
permanent eye twitch going on. I was having heart palpitations. I was like, oh, yeah, you were having severe anxiety, coupled with probably some other stuff. But
Yeah.
I just chalk that up to like the grind of being a working professional and a mom. And this is what everybody deals with. So 2020 came and here's COVID. So again, virtually overnight, I'm in a position where I'm laying off staff again. Like we laid off like 30% of the staff in the course of 2 weeks, just like that when COVID
Ugh,
hit.
it was brutal. Yeah.
It was horrible. And then I ended up furloughed. I got the call that was, hey, we're stripping leadership down to like, the bare bones. We're not laying you off, but we need to furlough you for a while, which was a huge ego blow. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean
Yeah.
I don't have a gig? Again, hindsight, best thing that ever happened to me. Because the more time and distance I got away from the job, the more time I spent with my family, the more time I went out and reflected and got out in nature for a minute, stepped away from my computer, the more I realized I didn't want to go back. I wasn't enjoying the job. I wasn't enjoying the way the company was being run. I wasn't enjoying being away from my home 2 weeks of the month. So I actually had some time to sit and reflect on what I wanted. And that is how I ended up at GlowFox, because I basically started stalking the founders, telling them I needed to come work for them. I wanted to do international fitness, and I needed to join their team, until finally the CEO gave me a meeting.
And I love that, Melissa, because what you're putting out there right now is what people need to hear, is that you need to
Yeah.
define where and what it is that you wanna do, and then you have to put the effort in to go get it, and you can't take no for an answer, and you may take a, "I don't get a response." Jenny and I deal with this all the time, like, we'll
Yeah.
send things out and we don't get responses, but we keep sending them and keep sending them, and sometimes we get a yes, and sometimes nobody responds, or sometimes we get a no, but you'll never know. What's the worst thing that can happen is nobody gets back to you or they say no. So I love that you really defined what it was and what company that you wanted to be with, because you knew after taking that reflection and that time off that that's where I want to be.
Well, and leaning on your network. I mean, you talked about it in the other podcast I listened to also, but I keep telling these young people that are trying to get a job, it is so about your network. Every single job I've gotten has been because somebody that I worked with recruited me, with the exception of one. It's a huge deal, and you have to spend time building that.
Especially in an industry that's actually quite small. Fitness is a pretty small industry. So you really never say goodbye to anybody. It's see you later. And it's very much what you
Hmm.
said. As I'm building out my team, the first place I always go is my roster of people that have worked with me in the past that I enjoyed working with, that got good results, that were the right cultural fit. So yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely stalked the Low Fox pretty hard, but thanks to Connor, he had a meeting with me. In the time that this is happening, that I'm furloughed, I get pregnant.
I've heard that so many times where women have issues having babies, and then next one that they're trying or not trying for, surprise, it happens when you're not stressed.
It was great. It was great. The story, we'd gone to the beach. We were definitely drinking on the beach. And my husband was giving me a hard time because we're sitting by the pool. My daughter is with my mother-in-law. We're connecting as adults. And I'm like, I'm just really tired. Like, I'm kind of done. I want to go to bed. And he's like, what the heck? Like, we get this bit of time. Like, I'm just feeling like garbage and not getting my period. I'm not even thinking a baby could be a
Right.
thing. Because,
Right.
like, we spent thousands of dollars and time to get Olivia. And we get home, and finally he says, well, what would you feel like if you were pregnant? And I go,
Yeah.
I would feel exactly like this. This is how I would feel.
Yep.
So lo and behold, yeah, pregnant. And so now I've convinced GlowFox that I need to work for them.
And you're pregnant.
And I haven't told them I'm pregnant. And US based, we're all scared to be women here and
Yeah.
have babies and all of that. So when they made me the offer, I was like, I need to tell you something. And I don't feel right about hiding this from you. And I could just see him looking at me like, what is she about to say?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I'm pregnant. I'm actually due in January. And they're like, oh, okay.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, we'll talk to you about our leave policy. You know, we do 12-week paid leave, European business versus US business. I can get on board with this. Like, oh, you paid maternity leave? That is weird. What a weird concept.
So I have to ask the difference, obviously, from your daughter to your son. Now you're in a different situation, and you already see right away with GlowFox their understanding and commitment to really supporting you. Was it easier to then juggle that work-life balance once you had your son?
Oh my gosh. Like, such a different pregnancy, such a different mat leave. With Olivia, I was on our version. Club Ready was like short-term disability, essentially. We're on like part of your pay. I got a luxurious 8 weeks instead of 6 because she was a C-section baby. And I was back to work. 8 weeks? You're not ready.
They're so little.
So little. That 12 weeks I had with Nathan, no one was bothering me. I wasn't answering texts and email. I really was with my child.
Yeah.
And then to come back and have all of the founders, all three of the founders have large families, and very transparently show that
Hmm.
their parents and that they make time for their family, and it is encouraged that you take time for your family. It just, the energy of that versus what I experienced from US based companies at that time, it's just so fundamentally different. And lo and behold, no eye twitch, no heart palpitation. I was sleeping well, very different experience, and one I'm glad I got to have, like a really true
Yeah.
wonderful time with my kid.
It's so interesting too, because you telling that story, it's very clear that you were such a better employee for them too, getting that time, even though you were pretty new. And I wish we could get leaders to understand, or companies to understand, if you actually do give people the time to take care of themselves, they will show up for you in such a different way, in such a better way.
When you feel invested in, it makes you want to invest. So,
Absolutely.
not just be treated like a cog in the machine, but a
Yeah.
whole person. And to be able to go, okay, well, now I can pattern this for my team, for my team
Yeah.
members that are starting their families or have families and are apologizing for having to take care of their children. Like,
Mm.
I'm so sorry. I've got, no, that's part of who you are. And it's also part of what makes you great at work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Right. And then Melissa, I also want to touch on, because I'm the same age as you, and Jenny and I have actually just recently had a menopause specialist on our show, and we talk about perimenopausal things all the time, and talk about how that's played into just being in a leadership role and being at work, and like you said, being able to get through all the things you need to get to, and also hopefully get the understanding you need while all these crazy things are going on in your body again. The anxiety, the night sweats, the lack of sleep.
Yeah, I'm sure there are people around me that are so sick of me talking about this, and they're just going to have to get through it because then I'm trying to be the voice that I wish that I had found before I was trying to figure this all out on my own. And it is having the moment it so greatly deserves right now, or maybe my algorithm's so wired to it, I see it everywhere now. But I had no clue what perimenopause even was. Like, I have a degree in health. How do I
Yeah.
not know? I know what menopause is. Okay, at some point you don't get your period anymore. And that was the start and finish to my
Yep.
understanding. So, a year and a half ago, I just started not feeling like myself. And I started noticing a little bit of weight gain, and I wasn't doing anything different. So, what is immediately hypothyroid? Something is
Hmm.
wrong with my thyroid. I went and got tested. Nope, everything looks great. So now I'm gaslighting myself into maybe things are great. Like, what is
Yeah.
wrong with you? And through online research, I finally figured out, oh, there's a thing that happens, a pretty massive thing that happens to all women.
Hmm.
Oh, and by the way, it could last like 10 years. So, strap in. You've got to figure out a better way to deal with this. So to finally find a GYN that's certified in menopausal health and to get on the right hormones and figure out how to manage my symptoms the best. I feel great now, but that's come with HRT, and that's come with
Yeah.
me understanding what is actually happening to my body and having somebody that'll listen to me and not just
Yeah.
tell me go have a glass of wine and, watch porn and
Right, right.
you'll feel like yourself again. I'm like, "Excuse me? Did I hear you
Yeah.
correctly?" It's
I'm
crazy.
guessing that's actually, you're not even exaggerating. That's like real advice that
Yeah.
people are given. It's crazy.
Libido's not what it was, then, maybe have a few glasses of wine.
If I have a few glasses of wine, I'm gonna fall asleep. Like,
Same.
let's be
I know.
honest. I'm not 20 anymore. If I have 2 glasses of wine, I'm going to bed, okay?
Exactly. And the wine thing,
I cannot not have energy and not feel like myself and not
yeah,
enjoy my life. And I'm not signing up for this for the rest of my years to feel like
I
half
know.
myself or like some aliens inhabited my body. No, I want to feel like me, and I'm
I'm
feeling that way now, thanks to the hormones.
I went to doctor after doctor after doctor. I think it was probably at least maybe about 9 months to a year, and nobody once mentioned menopause. And I was like, I'm having heart palpitation. I had all these heart tests done. Like, I mean, I just had all these things going on. Not one person mentioned it. And I was 48. So we're not even talking. I wasn't in my 30s. So yeah, it's crazy to me. And you're right. And maybe my algorithm is just the same as yours, but like Melinda Gates just gave a bunch of money to women's health. Thank God. I think that there definitely is a spotlight on it right now.
There's something like 1% of all of study funding considers women in this phase of their life or after. It's so understudied, and we're 51% of the population women. And all of us are going to go through this at some point. We're not the minority. It's just crazy.
Yeah. When I see a Viagra commercial, I lose my mind. Lose my mind. I'm like, how is it that they have something for that not everybody experiences, not all men experience, but they have nothing that can help 51% of the population that 100% will go through it.
I've radicalized my husband now. He's got all of the talking points. He could give a TED talk on perimenopause
That's
now.
awesome.
And he even says when those commercials come on, yeah, where are the women that are meant to be sleeping with these men? Because it's certainly
Yeah.
not their spouses that
Yeah.
going through menopause and feel like garbage.
Right.
Yes.
It's crazy.
I don't know if it's because I'm more the age and I'm more attuned to seeing all the things about it, or if it's just I think people are talking more about it and it's more
Yeah.
of a thing because finally we have a voice, right? And we've also had a guest on our show who has her own podcast called Feisty Menopause, right? And she's constantly
Yeah.
having guests talking about, usually athletes of how they've balanced it and what have they had to do. Because I think when you're younger, that's not going to happen to me. One day I'm not going to have my period and it's all good, right? But there's a
Yeah.
whole process that happens before that.
Love to know all this stuff before it was happening to you.
Yes. Yes. Instead of trying to figure it out as things are just like, as the, ship is crashing.
I don't want to gloss over the good things about this period of my life. Like my lack of giving a shit for things
Yeah.
that really don't matter and people's opinions that do not impact my life is at
Yeah.
an all-time high. If it's not benefiting me or my family, it's just not on my radar anymore. I protect my mental health like a fortress. If something starts creeping in and it's not good for me, I'm just not going to spend time on it. That's why I started reading so much this year because I was like, I'm on this phone too much. It's
Yeah.
not what I want to pattern for my children, and it's not healthy for me because I'm thinking about things I don't need to be spending time thinking about. Also, being a child of the 80s and 90s, growing up with very toxic self-image and self-talk in terms of, heroin chic and skinny at all costs, like I just want to be strong. I want to if I need to fight a bear in the woods to protect my kids, that's what motivates me now is being strong. And like thinking about hiking in my 80s or lifting in my 90s, those are the things that motivate me now.
I have a goal to be the winner in my age group. I've never been a fast runner, but like the winner in my age group at like 85, right?
Yeah.
Like I've just outlasted them all.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, Jenny also has a goal of being in the Olympics. So let me just tell you that.
I know. I just haven't found the right sport yet. I don't know if it exists yet.
If you just watch ESPN The Ocho, anything can be a sport. There was a cherry pit spitting competition on yesterday, and I'm like, you know
Oh my
what?
gosh.
There's a competition for everything. You could be world class at something you don't know is a sport right now.
Jenny, we should start a new sport.
Like the people that do bird calls or stuff like that. Yeah, I know. I'm like, I could start a new sport. It'd be very interesting. You never know.
Yeah, you definitely don't. So, Melissa, I have a couple other questions, and you've talked about it a little bit, but what are some of your favorite things to do to disconnect? It sounds like you have a pretty good balance going, but when you need to just take a moment for yourself and not be a mom and not be a VP, not have to be accountable to anybody else, what do you do to have your time?
First and foremost is workouts. That is my sacred space. We were lucky enough when we purchased this house to have the space to build my dream home gym. So I have no excuses. I can, have a break in my schedule. I can go down there and clear my mind. You know, get myself back in a really good place to be my best self in the afternoon or when the kids come home. Kids get to see me doing it. So that's important because they're already saying all the right things when they talk about their little bodies and their health and fitness. So definitely that. And then I just have mostly a bunch of old lady hobbies. Reading. So I'm on my 26th book this year after a decade lull in reading. I used to be an avid reader and it's keeping me off my phone.
Fiction or nonfiction?
Mostly nonfiction. I have plunged face first into the romantasy fantasy space. I'm all in on all of that. Give me all the dragons. And then something physical with my hands. So whether it be gardening or baking or cooking, something that I can create,
Yeah.
not in front of a screen or a computer. And then last but not least, my lifetime obsession with music. So I'm an avid vinyl collector. I very much love the process of long form content, listening to an album start to finish and looking at the liner notes.
Well, I have to say, one of my neighbors actually, they created in their basement the analog room. It's record players with records, it's books. There's no technology in there. And she's like, we'll just go lay on the floor and listen to records. I'm like, that is the coolest thing ever. I love it.
And music's so nostalgic, right? So it
Yeah.
has that ability to transport you to a different place and time. And the power of nostalgia is such a stress relief to be able to just disconnect truly for a minute. And then it's fun to pass that on to my kiddos.
Yeah.
Anytime that they're singing a song that I deem like good taste, I'm like,
Yes. You're
yes,
proud.
yes.
What's your favorite album?
God, that's like asking my
I
child.
know.
You know, I don't have a favorite album. If you twisted my arm and like put something on the turntable
Yeah.
right now, I'd probably go with The Cars' Heartbeat City, which is
Okay.
a bit
Yeah.
of a weird pick, but it's a damn near perfect album. And I'm such a fan of like 80s new wave, dark wave synth.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of being a kid, like in my
Yeah.
parents' back seat. So it's one of those albums I could listen to over and over again and just still get joy out of it.
What I love that you said about records is you can't just flip to the next song, right? Today I'll be in the car and my son will be like, "Can you turn it to the next one? Can you go?" And it's like, listen to the song. Let's listen to more than just the half of the song and onto the let's enjoy this, right? Like, and when you hear it, I'm like, you're listening to the whole album. You're not, oh, I got to hear the next song. Well, yeah, you will eventually, you know?
And so much of the goodness on those albums, those aren't singles that got released. It's the
Yeah.
stuff in between the singles that's the good part of the album that you miss if you just listen to a Spotify playlist.
So true. I love that. It's a good metaphor for life, right? We all have the hit songs, but there's so much in between those hit songs.
That's where the magic happens. It's all
Yeah,
like when life is happening, not just the highlight reel.
Right.
absolutely.
So I did want to touch on one thing. You did say you did have one thing that stood out as not necessarily a win, but always an experience, right? So I just want you to talk about that a little bit and maybe what you learned from it and give us a little more how you were able to overcome that and how it, helped you in the long run.
Yeah, financially, I'm going to be still paying the price for it for many years to come. I decided I wanted to buy into a fitness franchise and open my own studio. And it seems like the natural culmination of my experience, right? Because I'd seen so much fitness business. I knew what doesn't work, what does work. I'd supported some of the best franchises in the world. I'd run my own PT, I'd run my own gyms. Why wouldn't I do it with my own money involved? And it failed miserably. And again, hindsight's always 2020. I can look back now over the decisions I made, and if I had a little time machine, I could have gone, here's a red flag that you are ignoring because you're so headstrong and like bought into the programming that this business offered. So we opened the studio and very quickly realized like the working capital that we had been suggested to carry was not going to be nearly enough to carry us through our first year. And the amount of my own personal time that this business was going to take far exceeded what I ever estimated.
Hmm.
So we made a really hard decision only a few months into having our doors open that we needed to figure out a way to exit.
Wow.
We'd already burnt, through a ton of money, and I just wasn't comfortable gambling, any more cash on if this thing was eventually going to work. Lucky for us, we were able to have another franchisee step in that had a few locations. They took it, we didn't get a payout from it, but they took the lease. In terms of mitigating like future risk was a big win for us. And ultimately it ended up failing for them too. So I at least felt a bit vindicated that it wasn't all my screw up.
Yeah.
If they would have stepped in and all of a sudden they're like, look at us. And you're like,
Yeah, I would have at least, I think I would have felt better about that though, because so much work went into it to just have it just be nothing at the end is a heartbreaker. But there were a few key lessons I learned from this. So I'm always looking for like, there's got to be some good out of this. One is I am a finite resource, and I don't think I ever had to look in the mirror and really acknowledge that before. Like, there is a limit
Mm-hmm.
to my capacity and what I'm able to give. I'm not a bottomless well of time and energy. And then, two, at this phase of my life, I need to become more selfish with my time and energy because here we are again. I'm out on Saturdays missing key kid moments, all in the name of building more, more, more.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to do this. I had a good career, earning, a good income that is maintaining what my family needs. Why this constant need for more? So getting comfortable with being grateful for what I have and accepting that there's a lot of good and building I can do without this constant need to achieve.
It's
Yeah.
hard though, right? I think that's hard. It's really hard because I think especially you saw a lot of things be very successful and always were like, I'm gonna do this, and you were able to accomplish it, right? And to get to the point where you're just like, I'm good where I am. But I think having kids, kind of being in a safe space where you're like, well, yeah, I am good and I can do all these other things,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm really solid with where I am right now.
Yeah. And I'm not infallible either. The whole reason I wanted to do this thing was to pattern it for my kids, especially my daughter. Like, mommy can
Mhm.
be a mom, she can have her own hobbies, she can kick ass at work, she could build a business, I
Mhm.
could
Yeah.
raise her in the business. Like, these were all the things that were flashing through my mind when I made the decision. But if I would have really stopped and thought what I was giving up for that, like, I'm being goofy at home without always thinking about what I'm patterning and just being a person and being a mom. It took me a good at least year to be able to talk about it without just crumbling from the weight of failure and feeling like I'd done it to my family too. Like, I'm the one that encouraged this, and my husband's like, "Yep, I'm getting in the boat and we're going together." And I'm like,
Yeah.
so completely wrong.
Yeah, and I think that struggle is real, same with me with my studios, I had them for 12 years and it was like, you have this like, I failed. I didn't do everything I wanted to do, but then how I got through it was I was like, look at all the things I did do, right? Look at all the lives I did change. Look at all the friendships that connected at my studios and look at all the people I was able to meet. So then that
Yeah.
really, I think, helped me get past that. I was like, "Hey, there was a time limit on what I was supposed to do, and that was its time." Right? So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like with everything, be it a few months or a handful of years, there's always the good that I think you can justify and make sense of where it then brings you to your current now.
And I don't know if you've thought about this, but you know, the sunk cost stuff. Like usually when people put money in, they will hold on to the bitter end to try to recoup, recoup, recoup. And I actually think you were super brave to be like, nope, this isn't working. We're going to pull the plug. That's actually a really hard decision. And a lot of people would just keep fighting and fighting and fighting to the detriment of their family, their health, all financially, all those things. So yeah, I don't know if you've ever thought about it that way, but I think that that's a super brave decision.
Yeah, thank you. Sunk cost fallacy is real. It is. I mean, I fell victim to it in the experience too because I'd already paid this, what I considered at the time, huge franchise fee.
Hmm.
And there was a period right before the lease signing when I was like, it was this inflection point of making a decision.
Yep.
And I had alarms going off telling me, maybe let's pivot and not do this. But that money, all that money I'd sunk into the franchise fee,
Yeah.
so it bit me. It did bite me early on, and it made me compound the mistake financially.
Hmm.
But then to your point, when we got to that next inflection point, I'm like, no, two young
Yeah. Don't
children.
double
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, I'm not doubling down because this could go really, really wrong. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've done a ton of amazing things. You've built businesses, you've sold businesses, you work in an amazing company now. What are you looking forward to now at this point in your life where I always think of it as like the second chapter, right? What are you looking forward to career-wise, personal, anything?
Well, first, I love leading teams, and the thing that is most empowering for me is to see other leaders develop and go lead their own teams. That's where I get my most fulfillment from, is helping people see the potential in themselves and hone their own skills to get where they want to be. Being a mentor or being the person that I wish I had had as a
Yeah.
young professional is really what's fueling me now, particularly for women. Lori will know that women in tech, I picked a male dominated industry in fitness, and then I doubled down on it by going into tech to be able to make sure when I look around the table that it's not one lone female voice in me anymore, that I'm pulling in chairs and leading this next group of female leaders that deserve to be at that table, and the industry benefits so much from having them there to make that space good for them. And then the second is I just want to be building something. So
Yeah.
at ABC, that could look like how we envision the journey for our enterprise customers, so we continue to level up on the work we're doing as their tech partners. That could look like, ABC acquires a new company and I get to step in and pull them into the fold of customer success. There's always something new to build. And then I just want to keep learning, trying new
Hmm.
things, reading new things, listening to new music, and then watching my kids get out there and find out who they are. I'm so excited to see what little people they become, because it's every day they show up a little differently, and it's just so exciting.
I love it.
Very cool. Favorite question? Oh, what are you most proud of?
I think showing my kids that having ambition and being kind are not mutually exclusive. You can be competitive, you can have goals, you can achieve by American standards and acquire wealth and money and titles. That's all fine as
Hmm.
long as you're also kind. And you can be both. You can be both.
Be a good person. Okay, one more question.
Such good advice.
It really is. What's your favorite workout right now? And yes, your favorite record. I got to ask your favorite workout.
If you ask me in 3 months, I'll probably be a different
Yeah.
answer.
Totally.
But I got a Peloton during the pandemic, and I still am just not over that bike. I love, love, love cycling.
Melissa, next week I'm doing the triple bypass, 120 miles, 3 mountain passes, 11,000 feet of elevation gain. You're invited. Let's do it.
And then I'm a dead carcass on the side of the road. No, I think it's because I was always such an avid runner, but right now my joints just are not digging the running. And I'm hoping that changes through some of the mobility and strength work I'm doing, but I can get that same high on the bike.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I got into cycling too. I hurt myself running, and then I was like, I can still get the endorphins from
Yeah.
cycling.
Good luck with that, Lori. You are such a badass.
I told Jenny I hope I'm around next Sunday to say I made it.
How many have you done? How many
This
is
will be
this for
my
you?
third. I'm going to be done after this. I did one like 6 years ago, and then when Wyatt was 1, and my husband would not do this one with me again. He's like, "No, I did it once."
He wouldn't.
No,
Yeah.
no. He's like, "I'm not doing that." He's like making me take a shuttle back, right? He's like, "I'm not picking you up." So I have a shuttle that's literally taking me back, which is fine. We do what we want, right? At this age, you just do what you want and you make it happen.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, Melissa, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. It was lovely to hear your story firsthand. Our listeners are really going to enjoy and be motivated by your story and all the wonderful things you had to say and advice that you gave. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me, guys, and thanks for giving a forum to badass moms. There's so many of them out there.
Yeah. It's so fun. Every story blows me away. So excited to have you. Thank you.